Hi, so I'm sharing my story with you of how I overcame chronic neck pain, and it's to do with the help of Steve Ozanich and his book, The Great Pain Deception. So I've written some notes which are behind the camera simply so that I can stay on track and that I can tell my story and share it with you in a chronological way, a way that makes sense, and I didn't want to muddle that up without my notes. So if I sort of look behind the camera, that's why. So I was diagnosed with chronic soft tissue pain, cervical spine at age 29. I'm 30 now, so this was a year ago. And so leading up to that diagnosis, I was involved in a minor car accident in June 2019, where I suffered whiplash in my neck. So I took the time that I needed to heal from that. I did the physiotherapy exercises and healed completely. However, it's from April 2020 that I started seeing a physiotherapist again because I was experiencing neck pain. So it wasn't that bad at the time, or as bad as it became later on, but enough for me to notice the pain and to want to address it. So I had around 7 to 8 sessions with the physio, and by session 7 and 8, I didn't feel the pain in my neck. So I was all about ready to kind of stop the sessions. Felt like, what we set out to do had been accomplished. I sort of separately, I took on another project at work, which was a spreadsheet-based project, and bam, the pain just came back with vengeance. It was so loud, it was so excruciating that I couldn't work. I was crying, I was hurting, I didn't know how to stop the pain. Basically my head just felt too heavy for my neck to support. And so I know this now, but at the time it felt like one day I was absolutely fine and then the next day I wasn't, and my life just changed. So the physiotherapist that I was seeing believed that I had entered a pain cycle. So basically believed that my muscles in my neck had pain muscle memory, and so they were remembering the pain that it felt after the car accident, and so he was working with me to basically get myself out of this pain cycle. So he tried massage, so together basically he tried massage, various exercises, acupuncture, but all of this didn't seem to work. So he believed actually that my pain was being psychologically triggered, but just didn't know how to cure it with the skills base that he had. So I sought a diagnosis, seeing a musculoskeletal specialist, and he ordered an MRI scan. And I wanted this scan done because although my physio was saying that these were psychological triggered issues, I just wanted to rule out the possibility that if it was something physical, well, then we know it's there sort of on record, and a physical scan, an MRI scan, would be able to show us that. So the scan came back and there was nothing physically wrong that would suggest why the pain was as loud as it was. So the musculoskeletal specialist basically said, or his diagnosis was that with sort of just workstation adjustments, because I work on a laptop, that I would be able to manage the pain would disappear, and sort of sent me on my way. Unfortunately, I was far beyond this at this stage, so even just trying to switch on my laptop, I was in excruciating pain. So adjusting my workstation, which is what I did, didn't really help the situation, didn't help my pain, help reduce the pain. So I went back to my doctor and I asked to be referred to a pain specialist. And so this was a pain consultant. And at the point of sort of seeing him, I stressed that I wanted I wanted no medication. I wanted to do this without medicine, without sort of heavy medical intervention, because I believed from the physio that this was being triggered psychologically, so it's something that I knew I could overcome. And also because it was sort of June 2019, we were in sort of the depths of, or the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, so face-to-face appointments weren't sort of being held, and therefore if a diagnosis came back which was medication, I just felt like I couldn't trust it, because I didn't believe that somebody who had seen me virtually could give a diagnosis that would involve medicine without sort of seeing me physically. So luckily, actually, the pain specialist, to his credit, he agreed to my wishes and suggested no medical sort of like medicine route, but instead suggested that I use a TENS machine, and that I have sessions with a pain psychologist. So I started these sessions with the pain psychologist with an open mind, but bearing in mind that I was in a lot of pain, and so sitting in front of a computer screen to talk to this person caused me pain. However, I sat there nonetheless, and I would have these sessions, and we kept using the word pain, and it just sort of kept reminding me about my pain, and so I felt like my pain was getting worse, or definitely wasn't getting better. So I mean, I did this, I had the sessions, and I saw her with an open mind. I did the homework that she set, and I was honest with myself, and, you know, just trying to work with her, because, you know, she could actually cure this, and I just wanted to see it through. But I think in my gut I knew that it just wasn't making a difference. I wasn't being able to uncover what was triggering the pain, and it definitely just wasn't feeling any better. So her ultimate aim was that we would work together, and she'd get me in a place where I would be able to live with my pain, with the neck pain, and it wouldn't feel as loud as it currently does, where it's debilitating my sort of normal life. And to be honest, I rejected that. I didn't want to live with the pain. It was a new diagnosis. I was 29 at the time, and I just felt like this can't be what my life is and what it will be like for the future. So separately, alongside the pain psychologist sessions, I started seeing a cognitive behavioural therapist. So I did this off my own accord. Again, I was hooked on the idea that, okay, my pain is being psychologically triggered, so if we zap it from all angles, then we, you know, I can overcome it, and my life can resume as I knew it pre-pain. So yeah, sort of did these sessions, but then as well as this, I was having treatment from an osteopath, so I'd let go of the physiotherapist, because he kind of felt he'd got as far as he could treating me, and I felt like a step up in treatment was to see an osteopath. So I started seeing this osteopath, and again he reaffirmed it, and to his credit, he was saying, I think there's nothing structurally physically wrong with you that would cause this amount of pain. It is psychological, and so he would sort of massage my body, try and soothe the symptoms, would sort of crack my joints, and just aligned me in a way where, you know, my body wasn't in perfect condition, so he was able to kind of just realign those things, hoping that it would affect the pain and reduce it, but none of that seemed to. And at the time I was travelling an hour and a half each way to see him, because he was recommended to me as being fantastic, which he was. And so although driving at the time caused my pain and was a pain trigger, I thought it was worth it, because if he could sort of help reduce the pain in any way, well, it was worth the journey. So he basically treated me for 5 sessions and then sort of said, look, you need to see an osteopath that is closer to where you live so you don't have to do this journey, because any good that I'm doing in soothing your physical symptoms is just being undone in the drive home. So that's what I did. I found an osteopath that was up sort of a 5-minute walk from where I lived, and the osteopath also suggested hypnotherapy sessions, but at the time, I mean, I considered it ahead of a first initial consultation with the hypnotherapist. However, I just felt at the time I was doing so much that my whole life became about talking about my pain, and I just kind of lost sight of who I was outside of the pain, and who already I was opening myself up psychologically to 2 people, and then to include a third I felt like was just, you know, potentially too much. It was overkill, and so it just didn't feel right to do at the time. So all the while throughout this journey, I felt very alone in my journey. My doctor listened to me, but ultimately let me take the reins on my treatment plan. She was very empathetic, but wasn't really steering me in any direction or helping to like troubleshoot or problem solve what the causes of my pain were. And she believed, as what the majority of people, what the kind of world out there tells us, is that you have to live with chronic pain. Chronic pain is a long-term ailment, and you just kind of adapt your life in a way where you're able to live with chronic pain and operate at, up to 80-90% the way that you used to operate at. And so, ultimately this is what she thought, and was essentially just supporting me on my journey, and I think suspected that I would come to the conclusion that, okay, chronic pain can't be overcome, and I would learn to live with it. So throughout my time, so from June to October 2019, I was working out. So I was doing home workouts, I was doing HIIT sessions, I was going on long walks, activity that was available to me from home, because we were obviously sort of living in the depths of this pandemic. And during the times that I was exercising, I wasn't in pain. I was working out because I felt happy, and I loved the high that it gave me from sweating, from working hard, from pushing my body. It was only after the workouts, when I was in the shower, that the pain would come back. So to me, I didn't feel like working out exacerbated the pain, because I wasn't in pain. I felt relief when I was working out. It was only afterwards that I would be in pain. So meanwhile, or all the while, my life was becoming smaller and smaller. So normal activity was no longer it's like available to me. I couldn't work because I couldn't sit in front of a computer screen without being in tremendous amounts of pain. Driving my car, cooking a meal, carrying shopping bags, walking up a hill, carrying a handbag, carrying a bag on my back or on my shoulder, wearing necklaces, sitting at a dinner table to eat dinner, sitting or standing for longer than 5 minutes, all caused me pain. So even scrolling through my phone, texting, FaceTiming, all of these very, very normal activities that I could do no problem before the pain. These were all triggers of my pain. So it's important to, I guess, explain that my pain wasn't constant. It was triggered by certain activities, or so I believed at the time. So even when the world started opening up again in the pandemic, where we could, go to restaurants and bars, I just didn't want to. I didn't want to meet my friends. I didn't want to see my family outside of my own home. where I knew that I could lie down and I could kind of soothe my symptoms. Also, I felt like sort of seeing friends, naturally they'd be interested in me, what I was up to, how I was getting on with my health, and that would be another opportunity or activity that I'd have to talk about my pain. And I was tired. I was tired of having to talk about it, and I felt like the pain was defining me. I didn't know who I was outside of it, beyond it, and I was upset, I was sad, and life as I knew it had just completely changed. So all of this was, again, very difficult because pre-pain I was very outgoing, I was sociable, I worked hard, and life as I now knew it in pain was completely different. So I was desperate by the time that I came across Diwa Ozanich's book, The Great Pain Deception. So I knew I could kick the pain. I believed it. I believed it in my core that I could. And I just needed someone to tell me how. And the people that I was seeing, the kind of health professionals and experts that I was seeing, were all pointing me towards living with the pain. And I just didn't want to do that. I knew that I could live a life without pain, as I had been sort of enjoying up until this point. And so I just felt like, there was something out there that was more than what I was being exposed to. So I started reading his book, and I was in pain reading it, because it forced me to look down and read his pages, which again triggered my pain. So I would sort of lie in my bed in different positions and try and just turn the pages and read what he was telling me. And then I just started to do them. So I stopped the physical therapy, I stopped seeing the osteopath, because, in that book he kind of says, let go of the physical therapy because that is reinforcing to your brain that you have an issue, that you have a problem there. And actually there's nothing wrong with you. And if the moment that you start believing that there's nothing wrong with you is the moment that you start to heal. And so I did this, as scary as it was. I stopped seeing the osteopath. I kept on with the cognitive behavioural therapy because, to be honest, in those sessions we hardly talked about my pain triggers or my pain at all. We talked about a wide scope of things, and I felt like it was treating the psychological aspects of this. So I was following what Steve and Dr. Sarno was saying in the book, but I guess I was doing it with help. I wasn't doing it all by myself, and I don't encourage anyone to. If you feel that you can't, it's okay to ask for help and support. So I started, as well as sort of the therapy sessions, I started journaling, and I found this as a great tool to process my emotions, and I stopped thinking that I had a problem, and I believe that this healed me. So I don't remember the exact timeline of how long it took for the pain to totally disappear, but it did so very quickly, and it did so over a course of days/weeks. And it was just amazing. It was so liberating, and it is right now. So the people that Steve spoke about in the book who had terrible, terrible pain for a great many number of years was not comparable to my pain. So I had pain for around 6 months, whereas the case studies, the people in his book had pain, and Steve himself had pain for years, for 5, 10, 15 years, and I felt, okay, if these people can kick the pain, I can kick the pain. And yeah, I did it. So I uncovered that my pain was being emotionally triggered, and I was empowered by the book to think this and think in this way. So I stopped doing the things that didn't put me first. So I cut people out of my life that took from me more than they gave. I stopped saying yes to everything in my personal life and professional life. I basically stopped trying to be perfect. I prioritised my sleep. I meditated and understood that as time for myself, a way that I started to care for myself. I can work out again, and I do work out. However, I do this in a different way now because I realised that my workouts prior to my pain and in time of pain was being led by fear of becoming overweight, and actually I just replace that now. I now work out in a way which feels good to me because I want to, because I see that as self-care. So that's brilliant, and I guess the way that I live my whole entire life is so much kinder now. The book gave me back my life, but it actually gave me a new and better life than I had pre-pain. I'm happier, I trust myself, I let people in my life to support me, and I'm in a much more grateful place. I'm more open than I ever have been before, and I appreciate life so much more than I previously ever did. And I have no pain, and so I can only thank Steve for this and the book. So the book allowed me to look at my entire life, so not just from the car accident in June 2019 to present day. Steve basically taught me about TMS. I didn't know what it was prior to reading the book, and as soon as I read about it, I believed that that's what I had. I had TMS and I didn't have chronic neck pain. And so leading up to the neck pain, at times in my childhood and adult life, I suffered from like huge painful cold sores that were associated by stress. So it was known that stress was the trigger of these. I had a series of insect bites that swelled severely over sort of June 2019 up until August 2019, and I was prescribed antibiotics to reduce the painful swelling. I was also diagnosed with angioedema urticaria. I disagreed with the diagnosis at the time and felt like it couldn't just be that. There must be something else that's going on, because prior to this I was healthy. I wasn't somebody that saw my doctor very often at all, only just for routine checkups, and I just couldn't believe that this was suddenly out of nowhere. I felt was just popping up. So also sort of leading up to actually experiencing chronic neck pain, I had a persistent cough that lasted months. So this came about in September 2019 to November 2019. I couldn't speak for very long at all without coughing, and when I say coughing, there would be huge bouts of cough, and so it was like a coughing fit. So once I had started, it took me minutes to recover from it, and I'd have huge headaches because of all of the coughing. I basically felt like sand or gravel was trapped in my throat, and I just couldn't budge. Just couldn't budge it. And again, I was given an inhaler, antibiotics to treat this, but it did work. But again, I realised that all of these things leading up to the chronic pain or the neck pain were all being treated in isolation. But I now realise through Steve Ozanich's book that actually this was the start of my body talking to me. It was ways that my body was trying to get my attention and say, we're not okay. The way that we're living is not okay, it's not sustainable, it's destructive. And so actually the neck pain was the last straw. It was forcing me to address what was going on with me and letting me know that I couldn't continue to live like this, I couldn't live in this way. So what I say to Steve's book is that read it with an open mind, and then start doing what he tells you to do, again with an open mind. Our minds are powerful, and you too can be healed. I believe that, if you just trust yourself and you believe in yourself. So yeah, just give the book a read. Thank you for listening to my story.